Hello, welcome back to Together We Feel. Yes, it's Wednesday. It's not Monday. Monday was a holiday. I got hit with a storm. I had crappy Wi-Fi. I let these ladies know, and they miraculously all rallied and are joining me on this Wednesday from literally all over the world. And I'm coming from a hotel room, which was not planned. I did not stage that as we talk about empowerment through travel today. It just happened to be the happy irony of what happened today. So I'm joining you all from San Francisco. Sveti's in Malaysia, Vashti's in Cairo, and Tina's in Mexico. So we are truly living out the travel piece that we're going to talk about today. This topic for me, empowerment for travel, is for all of us. And especially for women, because that's who we talk to. There's so many myths about traveling as a woman, as a girl, with your family, solo, the age that you travel. I mean, there's so many things that we need to talk about and really dispel myths about and talk about the empowerment and possibilities of. And it's also from a travel standpoint, I can't think of a more important time in the world to be really learning about and embracing other cultures, educating ourselves with curiosity, tearing down these stigmas and these myths that are in play so loudly right now in society, specifically in the US right now. And so taking the time to be like, wait a minute, I need to really broaden my circle. I need to get curious and really learn and understand the value of how all of us live and the nuances that are involved. There's not just one way to live a life. And I think that travel just opens up your world. It makes you a better citizen. It makes you a better human in terms of how you connect with humanity, a healthier, I don't like the word better, a healthier human. Travel is one of my values. And it's something when I was identifying my values a few years ago, I did a real kind of deep dive. In this kind of deep dive, I've been with myself for about 6 years now. And it came down to identifying my values. And in this particular area I was working in, said I had to get to 3, which was hard for me to and I kept coming back to travel. And at first I talked to Sveti about this before, I think, that felt kind of shallow to me. Like travel, like, oh, is that really a value of mine? But I kept coming back to it. And then my husband was like, yeah, but think about because it's one of his too. And he's like, think about all that we learn from it. Think about what we have seen, the ways other people live, the way other possibilities of how to do things. When you grow up in a culture, especially in the US, where you hear all the time how great we are and how lucky we are. And that is true. We know that. We can sometimes kind of be like, okay, well, we nowhere else is better, so why would I go anywhere else? And better is a relative term. And I think it's important that we realize that there's multitudes of ways to live a life and so many lessons we can learn by how others live theirs. And maybe there's some ways and things that we can learn and adapt and adopt from each other that help us really appreciate all that's possible for all of us and not get locked in on one way. And so I think that there's so much power in that. So we're going to talk about that today with my guests, Sveti Rue, Vashti Haley, and Tina Coleman. They have extensive travel experience. They have resources. They have books. Vashti, I've committed to Vashti. I swear I'm going to get her book made into a Reese Witherspoon Netflix movie. If you have it, it'll be linked in here. Passports in Paradise. I mean, it's just so I felt like I was with her in every moment as she broke it down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got to get this. This reads like a Netflix drama, except
in my dreams.
Except it's your life. So
yes.
Anyway, but welcome all of you to the panel today. Sveti, I'm going to start with you. You are really about helping women feel comfortable and confident because there's so many myths and stigmas about women in travel. and you started
Mm-hmm.
solo traveling,
I did.
at a point in time where it was really a turning point for you. And Vashti and Sveti have been on the podcast with me. So I'm going to link their episodes so you can learn more about their personal stories and how they got on this trajectory of travel. Today, we're going to focus on the empowerment piece, but it is, I think, talk to me about the solo travel as a woman and what you've learned and what you wish every woman would understand.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so this is a really important question because I get asked a lot. It's like, oh, you're traveling alone. Just yesterday, I was in a cab here in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and the cab driver, we only had 10 minutes or so, and he turned around and he said, "So you're here alone, solo?" And so for him, it was just so interesting. And then he added this sentence that is a bit unexpected now because I've been doing this for 3 years. And usually, people ask me a bit more questions. He's like, today you're the third solo woman that I've driven.
Oh, wow.
And so I see a tide. I see a real change happening, that there are so many more female solo travelers. And I could see this trend because when I go to hostels or wine tastings or any type of tourist activity where I'm discovering that particular country's culture, I
Mhm.
see a lot more women solo
Mhm.
traveling than men. And I've seen this often in the last 3 years. And I even have, I was reading a book somewhere, there's a stat that said 2 out of 3 solo travelers are now women. So that initial thought that we have that, it's more accepted for men to do it, or what, that is changing. And I'm happy to say that I hope to contribute to that as well, because it is a myth that, only men are allowed to do it. And so, from a perspective of safety, adventure, and I see that there's just so much more women that are willing to take that first step towards it.
Yeah. What set you on your what just give a little people, like, what did you decide when you went the first time, like, I think I'm going to try this?
So, similar to Tina, I also went to Spain first because I was familiar with the country and I felt a bit safer to go to a place. And so, how that started, I bought a one-way ticket to Spain, and that was 3 years ago. And what led to that was a year of sort of digging into myself. And as we talked on your podcast, as we discussed it, just really introspective, doing meditative walks that ask myself questions about what have I been doing with my life generally, and what have I been stifling, and then what if I gave myself permission to start living my life the way I had envisioned it. And that permission, and giving myself that permission, set me on a path to book that one-way flight, put my things in storage, get rid of my apartment, later on quit my job, do all these crazy things, and live an unconventional lifestyle. And what started this was many, many, many years of loneliness and feeling disconnected from myself, feeling not tied to, just not understanding my self-worth, just so many things wrong that are happening to a lot of women. It happened to me in my mid-30s. I am 40 now, so there's something to say about traveling older as well. So a lot of people are just like, oh, there's a judgment aspect of, well, you're kind of living a life that people in their 20s do, so there's a lot of judgment around that still. And so that's what also I want to say, like, it's okay to live a different path, a non-standard one. And yes, there's a lot to unpack there too, but yeah, that's how
Yeah.
it all started.
Okay. All right. Thank you. There'll be more to come, but I wanted to give people a little bit of introduction to that. Vashti, you kind of married into this life, not fully understanding what it was going to encompass, and it became this great adventure for you. So, talk to us about the empowerment through travel for you.
Yeah, I think I'm from small town America, so I didn't ever foresee that this would be my life, living, most of it overseas and really falling in love with different cultures and ultimately like ending up that we're going to like retire in Greece in the next few years and just seeing like how much more there is to the world, right? I think that's like a really big part of it is that we get caught up in like what is just in our neighborhood or in our town. And a lot of people don't ever leave those confines. They might not, I think it's 1 in 7 Americans don't leave their state. And so, or something very similar to that. I just saw statistics on that yesterday. Yeah. And so for me, yeah, I met my husband, very randomly actually in New York City. We fell in love and that is a whole other story. And then I found myself, in a helicopter in Baghdad. And, it was like, what am I doing? And 2 kids and 20 years later, here we are. It's been a very wild ride, but not anything I would change. It's funny because spending my very first overseas trip when I was a teenager, randomly, we didn't really travel at all when I was younger, except for just to do like road trips in the US, was to Kuala Lumpur. So like it always holds a special place in my heart as like really starting like that adventure, like, oh, I want to see the world. So yeah, we live a very unconventional lifestyle too. And that people are like, how do you do that? You're moving every 3 years or 2 years, your kids, like, what about them? And I'm like, my kids are like global citizens at this point. They really understand the dynamics of the world in ways a lot of kids don't. Some of those being like that they've seen, we lived in Nigeria, they've seen really abject poverty, but they also understand that they are quite, I don't like the word lucky, but they have a lot of things that a lot of kids in the world don't have, and so yeah, I think it's really helped shape them too as humans.
Yeah, just their understanding. And I mean, I think too, you've had bumps along the way. I mean, bumps would be an understatement. And yet you still see the beauty in it. You still embrace the travel. It hasn't stopped you from continuing this life when I think some of your bumps might have sent people home for good and been like, no, no more. But you were still able to see past that through the value. Talk to me about that a little bit.
I don't know, it's helped me become a very resilient person, I think. And honestly, I would be bored just not moving. I don't know how to not do this at this point. And it's not just because I have to, it's because I'm like, I don't want to just be in one place. I want to be able to continue to travel and like Sveti's doing, like when our kids go to college, like that's our plan. We'll have like a home base probably in Greece. And then we're going to just, go and stay places for a month at a time, 2 months at a time and be able to do that, because I would be bored and my husband would be very bored and that would be bad for both of us. So, there's just something to learning about new places and experiencing them that just is of such value.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for speaking to that because I think it's so important, so passionate. You mentioned that now, you're thinking you're going to retire abroad. That's something my husband and I are considering. I don't know if we'll end up doing it, depending on, we've got 3 grown daughters and we know one of those couples is going to be starting to try to have grandkids soon. But they may end up living abroad. I mean, my middle daughter's fiance grew up abroad. And they traveled. I've lost track of how many countries they've been to because he's just so accustomed to travel. Like for him, it's restful to go travel. He'll come off a really difficult assignment in his work and his release is to go travel for a month and decompress and see the world. And so I think we kind of started it by just driving across the country with our kids. And so I've been to 48 states. Our youngest has been to 48 states. My husband's been to all 50. And our other 2 daughters have been to 46 and 47. They missed a couple because they grew up first before their younger sister. But it's just something that we kind of accidentally on purpose kind of got into. And then from there, they now travel throughout the world. And it has such a powerful impact. So what your kids are seeing, Vashta, I think there's so much value in. I mean, just that broader perspective. And I think we have to kind of dispel the myth too, that you have to be rich to travel. That, that is, none of us are rich. But there are ways to travel, and we'll get back to that in a minute. I'm going to have you all talk about that a little bit more in a moment, because if travel is something you're passionate about, there are ways to do it. You have to plan and and save and pick the right things, but there's a lot of ways you can do it. It's not just for people with a lot of money, and I think that's such an important piece too. Tina, you now reside in Mexico. Talk to us about your travel experience and why you decided this was something important for you. You've chosen to live abroad now, abroad Mexico. Mexico's, I don't know if Mexico's just south of us, but I mean, but still though, a different country, and you've purposely chosen. So talk to me. You've got a new book coming out, which I love the title of. It's hilarious, but also really empowering, I think, for women over 50. And I think too, this is an important thing to talk about. Sadly, many times women end up sometimes planned, sometimes not planned, single in their 50s, 60s, 70s. They may lose their partner. They may divorce. A lot of things happen. And so all of a sudden you find yourself, maybe you've been single all along, all of a sudden you find yourself single and decide, all right, I'm going to do this thing. And there's a lot of myths about, older, and I'm older. I'm 56. I'm like, I'm not old. I mean, if I get to 80, you can call me old, I guess, but I'm not old. I'm actually thriving right now. So talk to me about, and you did have a circumstance in your family, a loss of loved ones that did really impact your choice. So talk to me about how this all got started with you.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Des Moines, Iowa. And even as a child, I knew I wanted to travel, and we did not do vacations. The only traveling we went to was for funerals. My mother dragged us all over the US for funerals, but we never took vacations. I know. And I thought that was normal. So we never traveled. I always wanted to. And as you get older, you start thinking, when am I going to do it? When am I going to do it? I lost both my parents very suddenly right before I turned 40. And it really got me to thinking that, life can change in an instant. And I lost a lot of other family members between 40 and 45. And I just decided that was a time. Like, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? So I booked everything. And of course, a week before that trip, I was rear-ended by an 89-year-old lady at a stoplight in Dallas, Texas. Yes. The universe has a sense of humor. It does. And that trip, or that accident, actually ended my career as a massage therapist, but I still went on the trip. I felt well enough to do it. I know how to seek proper treatments, but it's different when you are traveling and doing something you're fully engaged in. It's different being in pain than when you were laying in bed and being in pain. So I think that trip not only really opened my eyes to traveling and just fueled that passion that I have for traveling, but it also really helped me to heal and helped me to be in the present moment and to be excited instead of being like, oh, this hurts and that hurts. I mean, I still had those moments, but it was just so much more engaging. And I bootstrapped that whole trip. I booked it non-refundable. So I'm like, I am going. That was super important. And then I started doing medical tourism, coming down to Mexico for dental work. And I just fell in love with Mexico. Every time I came down, I was like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing country. And so it's like I never wanted to go back to the US because it's just so amazing. The beaches, the people, the food. It's a little more relaxed too. It's not all that hustle and grind we have in the States. So during 2021, I decided that, or 2020, I decided I was moving to Mexico. And it wasn't planned out. There was no thought behind it whatsoever. I was planning a birthday trip to San Diego. And then I was like, I'm not going to move to Mexico. Like
Yeah.
there was
I'm almost there already.
there was no thought in it whatsoever. And I spent 2.5 months traveling Mexico by myself.
Okay.
And I think solo traveling is one of the best things women can do for themselves.
Yeah.
Because you get to do whatever you want, however you want to do it. You get to, make different plans, just kind of fly by the seat of your pants if you want and do what inspires you rather than doing it according to somebody else's schedule.
Yeah.
And I will say this, if you wait for other people to travel with you, you will keep waiting. You will not do it.
That's Betty can speak to that. That's a big part of her story.
It's so important. It's so important.
Yeah.
I had a friend that wanted to go to Italy with me and she never did. Like I sent her all the, she just waited and waited and waited. And I'm like, I'm going. And I've been to Italy 3 times now. I spent like a month and a half in Italy last time. So yeah, traveling is super important. It's something that has completely changed my life and my perspective. And I talk about that in my book. My book is 50 Fabulous and Fuckable, the midlife guide to reinvention, confidence, and travel. So I encourage all women to travel, live their best life, do the things that scare you because it's easier to ask for forgiveness, than permission.
Yeah.
And you're not going to regret those things when you're lying on your deathbed. You're going to regret the things you didn't do, not the things you did do.
Yeah.
So go there and have fun, enjoy your life, and like be passionate about it. 50 is the beginning of everything. Trust me.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree. I 100% agree. Yeah. So Vashti and Sveti, it's getting even better for you. I know
I just landed there. So I'm there. I'm there with you.
All right. You've joined. Okay. All right.
I've joined.
Sveti will be here with open arms when you get here. You've got a little more time to go. You got, like a decade. Bit, that's okay. That's okay. We'll be in our 60s by then. We'll welcome you then too.
Yeah, that'll be great.
That'll be, I know. So I actually saw something the other day. I don't remember who posted it. It was somebody medically reliable saying that women's brains in their 50s are actually geared to thrive at that point, that we actually are at our thrive point in our, between 50 and 60 and beyond that. But it was just like, oh, hell yeah. I knew that. I feel that. And so I want to talk about real quick, Tina, there are so many myths about Mexico and the safety of Mexico. And I'm not saying all the things aren't true. I mean, yes, Sveti and I've talked about this before. Vashti and I've had this conversation. You have to be mindful of your surroundings.
Yes.
You have to be mindful of the local cultures to understand how you navigate travel in places. Vashti's got many stories. Sveti's got stories. I'm sure you have stories too, Tina, about being aware and well researched and informed. And also, there's a lot of myths out there. So talk to me about how comfortable you were, how safe you felt, and I'll let you all speak to that because I think this safety issue is a thing that gets in a lot of people's way. So I'm going to circle back around to all of you before I let you ask each other questions on this. So talk to me about that piece of it.
Okay. Well, I think Mexico is incredibly safe. I think those myths come from, a long time ago in Mexico, maybe wasn't quite as safe as it is today. And I also think the American government kind of like encourages that myth to prevent people from coming down to Mexico. Because if they came down to Mexico and found out how great it was, they'd be like, we're moving.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. That myth is definitely encouraged. However, I've never felt unsafe in Mexico. The first time I came down, I was in Cancun at night. I was like, oh my gosh, can I go out at night? Is it safe? And it was completely safe. And I have felt safe in every city I've been in. I've been to over 30 cities in Mexico. I've lived in multiple different cities and towns and villages in Mexico. I've always felt safe. But obviously awareness, because in every country, in every city, there's always those places you don't want to go.
Sure.
That's true in every town. I don't care if you're in Dallas, Texas, or Chicago, wherever you're at in the world, there's going to be those places you don't want to go to.
Sure.
The locals will be like, don't do that.
Yeah.
But Mexico is incredibly safe. And I always encourage people not to go to the resorts, but actually go and experience Mexico, like the real Mexico. Meet the people. The people here are incredibly friendly. They love foreigners. And my Spanish is so bad still. Like, I am not good with foreign languages. I've realized that. I've said so many things incredibly wrong. But people here are so kind and generous and patient, which I really appreciate. So like they love people and they're so generous and just amazing people. And you
Yeah.
find that when you start to travel, that people all over the world really are very open and generous. But Mexico is just a beautiful country. It has the best beaches in the world, like in my opinion. I've been to a lot of countries, but it has beautiful beaches and mountains and the historical European towns. And then Puebla, the city that I'm in now, was a Spanish architecture. So it's got this amazing architecture that's very European. And Mexico City is amazing. It's so cultural. It actually rivals Paris for the number of museums and the quality of museums. Yeah. And they actually have museums that are free. All the museums are free on Sunday in Mexico City.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot of culture and history and art and obviously the food. And because Mexico is a tourist country, it's very international because it allows people from all over the world to come and to settle and to bring their culture with them. So you can get any kind of food you want in Mexico, which I absolutely love. And I don't care if you're in Zipolite, which is a clothing optional beach that I lived at. I don't care if you're there or if you're in Mexico City, you can get any kind of food you want. Whereas when you go to Italy, the only food you can get is Italian, which we all love Italian, but after like a week, especially if you're there for a month and a half, like I do, like it gets to be like, seriously, like I need some Mediterranean food, some Indian food, I need something a little different. But yeah, so Mexico is amazing. The only thing I would caution people about is the water. Yes, is the only thing. I'm like, the cartel is not going to give me, but the water might.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
the stomach happen are real.
Exactly. Or you're not watching where you're going and you like trip on a sidewalk or something. That's actually more of a concern than anything else. But yeah, otherwise I love Mexico. I encourage everyone to come down. It's an amazing country. You'll find whatever you're looking for, you can find it here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I think that's so helpful. Vashti, talk to me about the safety piece, because every time you've moved to different places and you've lived in some wild places, you've been corkscrewed on a helicopter out of Baghdad. I mean, there are stories, guys. I'm not kidding. Read the book. It's like, holy cow, this little PNW girl on this wild ride. But talk to me, because you have to, every time you go, you guys just moved to Cairo with your kids a few months ago. So you're about, 6 months in now there?
Yeah, 7, 8 almost,
okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
And Cairo's also incredibly safe. Like, as any major city, there will be pickpockets. There will be people that want to, take advantage of you, but you just have to be smart and aware of your surroundings. And like Tina alluded to, there are always places you don't want to go. There are places in Seattle you don't want to go. There's places in, wherever. Like the U.S. likes to believe it's immune to these things, but it is not immune to these, things of just people being people. So just being, and I think it's always just really important to be respectful in that safety as well, because a lot of times people that find themselves in situations are not always being respectful to the culture and to the country, and may find themselves in trouble, so I think that's an important piece. But, for me, my husband's whole world is security oriented. So it's always just being aware of your surroundings, so, and like I said, Cairo's incredibly safe. They want tourists to come here. They want people to feel safe. Again, the water might get you, and like even Nigeria, like that was a different kind of environment, and we had a lot of restrictions on us there. But the Nigerian people in general, just lovely people, and I really liked living there. It was just being aware of your surroundings. I can say that about anywhere outside of Iraq, because that was a war zone and that's a totally different environment.
No, I mean, your chapters on Nigeria are very specific about it, and also you met the most incredible people and people that took such good care of you. I want you to talk a little bit more about, you hit on something that I want to hit on, being respectful of the cultures. Don't go in there as the all-knowing person that came from America. And Spetty's from multiple countries. She's not, she's got multiple roots. So this isn't, but still grew up a lot in the US. Don't go out there acting like you're the one that's there to inform them about everything in the world, which I think so many, I have been on more than one tour where my husband and I are like, oh my God, we're so sorry for these people. We are not all like this. And we made whenever we travel, however sloppy it may be, we get our Google stuff out, language stuff out, and we really try to speak the language when we're ordering our food, when we're asking for directions. We don't always nail it, but I will tell you, they always appreciate the efforts, unless they like talk to us in English first and say, don't worry, you don't have to do that. Right. But just that mindfulness, awareness, of what they embrace, what they believe. And I think that goes a long way. So talk to me about those safety pieces. And then Vashti, how much, before you go in, especially now that you have kids, do you do some research going in before you go to these places? Or do you just kind of go in knowing there will be people there locally that will kind of help you figure it out?
Well, we generally have like a list, and we like have to put the places that we're interested in, but we're not guaranteed any of those places.
Okay.
My biggest thing is generally the schools, because my kids are in school. So what does the schooling look like? That's my biggest thing. Most everything else we can work out, but they have to be able to get a good education, and I'm not a good homeschooling person. So like, it's not coming from me. I don't have the patience. So for us, it's education. And then, you don't want like a really high threat environment for your kids. Honestly, we were in the US for the last 2 years prior to this, and my biggest fear was shootings there. I've never lived anywhere where I'm more afraid of things than living in the United States.
Yeah, so, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's so true. Absolutely.
So,
yeah. All right, Sveti, talk to me about your kind of the safety issues you run into, because especially as a solo women traveler, this is a common thing you have to help women work through.
So I'm going to segue to Vashti's sort of being afraid in the US as well for certain reasons, shootings being one of them. So I grew up I'm originally from Bulgaria, but I grew up in Detroit. And then I lived in New York City. And so when I go to new places, they're like, oh, are you afraid to travel alone? And then I tell them that, I grew up in Detroit and New York. And they're like, oh, actually, we should be afraid of you. Detroit has a bad reputation. Or it used to, of being very unsafe. But now they've turned it around and whatnot. But so what I'm trying to say is, if you have the capability of making it in your large scale American city, you have all of the knowledge within you to make it in other places as well. It's the way you navigate New York City and the way you navigate, let's say, Detroit, is you're going to use those same techniques when you go to Cairo, when you come to Kuala Lumpur. You're not going to, be belligerent drunk on the streets and make yourself vulnerable.
Yeah.
You don't do that in your own city in the States. Why would you do that when you're traveling? So the lessons that I've learned along the way of traveling for 3 years is just, I do my research as a female solo traveler. I try to pick places that are close to grocery stores, so I don't have to walk in dark alleys. And, so I kind of look at Google Maps, make sure that, there's tourists around there, you do have to have that aspect of research beforehand. But, and then from a perspective of once I get here, I'm very aware of my surroundings. I think I've developed a sort of sixth sense by now. And I recently traveled actually with my aunt, who is 67. She just left 2 days ago. And so I was traveling with her for 2 weeks, and she was very impressed about kind of how I have this sense of this kind of radar now of knowing where things are. And she's like, I don't even know how you do it, but you see everything. I was like, yeah, I'm just aware now. I just pay attention. I look at the streets. Like you just become more savvy after traveling for so long, and you don't have to do that in the beginning, but you just develop that. And then yeah, I think we might have talked on the podcast is I don't try to put myself in vulnerable situations, and I also kind of pretend a little bit like, oh, I've been here before. So there's a level of confidence with that. And so when you're walking through the streets, you're not a victim. You're not acting like a victim. And so you're walking like you know the place, you've been there before, even though you haven't. And that's okay. But you just pretend. And then that goes a long way too, just kind of giving that air of confidence. And I've learned that on my travels too. And there's just so many things, and just from the perspective of safety that I've learned, and now I've become so much more self-aware, more present, just being present. That's also a big part of traveling. You're forced to take in all the sensory, to be present, and then keep your wits about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good point. Okay, we're going to speak now to the financial piece, this myth that you have to be rich to travel. Tina, I'm going to start with you. Talk to me about the myth of that.
Okay. I will add one thing, though, to the about traveling also and respecting the culture. The dress can be different from location to location. Like when I was in Egypt a few years ago, when I was in the more touristy areas like Hurghada and Luxor, I could wear, nothing revealing, but I could wear a dress that had like an A-line cut and right above the knees and be on a scooter with somebody, and it was totally acceptable. But when I got to Cairo, it was completely different. I thought Cairo is such an amazing city. Egypt is such an amazing country. I thought Cairo would be this amazing cosmopolitan place, and it was much more conservative.
Yes.
And I found that out the hard way. My host was like, "Oh my gosh, you were on the back of a scooter in that dress? You didn't have a scarf?" Like, oh my God, like he about had a heart attack. He was like, "You probably caused accidents." He's like, "Don't do that." Yeah, he's like, "Don't do that." And that's when I realized I really actually need to research countries before I just go, because I just kind of go and don't take that into account. And my perception was that Cairo would be like a little bit more cosmopolitan, a little more freer, and it was not. So that is something, respecting the culture is super important, especially in Muslim countries, because you don't want to go in there and be disrespectful, or stand out too much.
Right.
Because they will ridicule you. Like they have no problem, trying to put a woman in her place.
They let you know.
Yeah. But
I'll see people wearing like shorts and stuff in like, or women specifically in like downtown or even out at the Gem, the new museum and stuff, which there's a lot of tourists there, but there's also just a lot of Egyptians that go to the museum. And I'm just like, I get that like feeling. I'm like, oh boy, just like read before you go out into the world. Like the area I live in, Mahdi, has tons of expats and all of that. So like I can wear totally different clothes in my enclave down here in south of Cairo, just like 8 kilometers, than I would wear in Cairo.
Exactly. That's just something good to remember. Like in beach towns and tourist towns, it's a little bit different, a little more relaxed.
The beach is more relaxed. Even Alexandria a little bit. So it's like, it just depends, and it varies by country.
So I just wanted to say that because I thought that was absolutely to say. But on the financial aspect, no, you do not need to be rich to travel. That is a complete myth. And people will use that excuse. They will also use the excuse, oh, I have kids, I can't travel. Oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, I have to work. Like they will use all those excuses to not travel. The financial piece is really important, because when I started traveling, I was a massage therapist. If I didn't work, I didn't get paid. And I decided I was going to go and travel for 3 weeks. So not having a paycheck for almost a full month. But that's a little scary. And I actually did couch surfing and I did hostels in order to travel, because I was like, I'm doing this. And I actually originally started hosting people on couch surfing because I was like, I really want to get to know people from other cultures, from other places, and hosting them was a great way to do that. But I was like, I'm doing this, and it's like, it was amazing. And you will find that it can be much cheaper to travel to other countries than to stay in your own country,
Yeah.
and depending on how you do it, like nowadays, like you can do house swap, you can do pet sitting, you can do work abroad, you can do all these different things to help make it a lot more affordable. But
Sure.
you don't need to be rich to travel. You'll find out that things are way cheaper in other countries than where you're at. So the
Yeah.
expenses you're going to have anyway, like grocery shopping, maybe going out to eat, entertainment, those are going to be cheaper in other countries depending on where you go.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to Monaco,
Yeah.
or someplace like that,
Yeah.
it might actually be cheaper for you to travel. It's just a plane ticket. And if you use your airline miles or ask family members, hey, do you have airline miles I can use? Or things like that, or find the deals, especially if you have a flexible schedule.
Yeah.
You can find great deals on Skyscanner. Just like if you want to go on a cruise, going either planning it in advance or going last minute could be super affordable. So no, you don't have to be rich. And so many people use it as a way just to not take that step.
Yeah.
They give themselves an out rather than seeing what it would actually cost to do it. And of course, different times it's going to be cheaper. I found this out the hard way. I thought Croatia split would be super, super cheap because it was a few years ago, right? And it's a beautiful country, a beautiful city. And I went there for some emergency dental work from Portugal to Croatia because it's much cheaper there. And I found out that they actually double and triple the rates of everything, including the restaurants during high season.
Oh, wow.
So,
yes, it's very expensive. The prices surge dramatically. Yeah.
Exactly. So depending on what time of the year you're going,
Sure.
planning around holidays or not going during summer when everyone else is going,
Sure.
that gives you so much more flexibility, I think. And then living in countries and doing like a slower travel, staying in place for a month or 3 months or 6 months makes it so much more affordable than hopping from place to place to place to place, because those Airbnb fees add up.
Yeah.
So those are no joke these days.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So good. Sveti, how about you? What have you learned with this?
I'd say all of the above of what Tina said. I've done everything. I've cat sit, I've dog sit. I just did when we did our podcast in Helsinki. I was plant sitting.
She was in Finland plant sitting. I was like, okay.
Love it.
But with someone you met during your travels.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you travel and you make these connections, and then 2 years later, I said, I kind of want to make my way back to Helsinki, and he's like, oh, I'm going back to Mexico City for a month. Do you mind taking care of my plants, and you can stay at my place for free? So that's like, when I tell these stories and how naturally these things happen and how open people are, and you're thinking like these people are strangers, and they are, but you start the conversation, which I normally do. I start conversations, and then you don't know where it's going to take you. 2 years from now, you could be plant sitting in their apartment. And so, all like the way for financially, I have because just like Tina said, you stay at a place longer, so maybe like a month or 3 months, and then you can find better deals that way. And so I make the money go a long way. And so now I do freelance. And so sometimes I get projects and sometimes I don't. And so that also navigates whether I stay in a hostel or an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Or, based on the budget. And so, but you can make it work. And from my last place that I was permanently in the US was San Diego. And I still say that how much I spent on a 1-bedroom apartment in San Diego is nowhere near spending a month traveling, for accommodations. Like again, if you're not going to Monaco or Switzerland, or Norway, if you're not going to those 3, I think everything else is doable somehow. And so I'd say, like, initially you might even end up saving money on accommodation. Because the rent is so expensive in the States, especially in California, Melissa,
Yes,
and so it's just so from a budget, you can stretch the money. It's interesting. I come back to my aunt again, traveling, because she got a firsthand experience with me for 2 weeks, and she's like, wow, you by doing the research and maneuvering and like figuring out, like, I don't go on just the regular touristy sites. I use ChatGPT. I use like all these kind of tips and tricks, and I say, like, try to talk to the locals when I'm in a happy hour, just the person sitting next to you. You can just kind of ask them, like, hey, I just got to the city. I'm speaking about, we were in Vietnam, and I said, like, what's like a good local spot, and then people are happy to start that conversation with you. And then she gave me like 10. She ended up being a traveler herself. We connected on Instagram. It's just so, it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful.
Yeah. So Vashta, you've traveled when it was just you and your husband, because you guys don't get stationed, but then you guys get time off to go visit other places, like they want you to, so to speak. So talk to me a little bit about traveling, but also traveling with a family now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously when it was just the two of us, it was different. I could say easier, because like traveling with little kids is challenging, just with all of the things that they require that you have with them, like seatbelt things and all of that aren't always in cabs or Ubers or whatever. So you have to get like all of these little things for them. But so for us, like as a family now, I'll speak to that first, is like kind of going to places off the beaten path and a little off season. Right. Now they're in school, so I am dictated by the school schedule. So it's not quite as easy, but like this summer we're like, oh, we're going to maybe go here or there. And then I was like, oh, because we were looking at Croatia. And then I was like, let's do that in like October when there aren't so many people there. But instead doing like the Balkans, like they're amazing, but they're not heavily traveled so much at this point, especially by Americans. And so that's what we're doing. And they're about 60% cheaper than if I was in the States. Right. Yeah. So it's like just finding those places. Plus I really just enjoy going to places that are, considered off the beaten path. I can go to London or whatever, whenever, but I would rather go explore other places. And so that's been fun. It's fun to show the kids like different cultures that way too. We're not just staying in like, what I would consider like Anglo-Saxon Western cultures, like going out and seeing the world. And when it was just my husband and I, we would just go all over the place. I think in one year we were like in 20 countries or something, like, just because we were in Iraq as like my first tour. And so we had 3 R&Rs in a year, and that's like a lot of vacation time. And so that's where we were just sort of jet setting all over whenever we could get out of the country. And so, and now I've heard, actually, someone was just telling me that Baghdad is like built up kind of like Dubai, and it's like gorgeous and beautiful now. So I would actually really like to go back and see it sometime in a different time. So I guess it's just like really looking, if you have the opportunity and you're not tied to a school schedule, to look off of like the peak season, even shoulder season, whatever can get you there a little bit cheaper. Plus you're not going to have the crowds. I mean, who loves, as much as we all want to see Dubrovnik, do we want to do it with 8 million other people? No, not really.
Yeah.
So, it's just fun to find those special places.
Yeah, that's something we've learned. I mean, the first time we went to Europe, we went in July because that's when we could go. And it wasn't as bad as August, but I mean, the line to see the Mona Lisa at the Louvre was nuts. And we're just like, okay. So when we went, like we went to Ireland a year and a half ago, we went in late September, early October. We got great flight costs. Our flight costs were half of what they would have been a month earlier. And I mean, it's Ireland, so it's always kind of raining. But also, I mean, I will tell you, we got all this rain gear and we only used it for like half a day. And we were there for 12 days. And so also don't always believe what you hear about these places and spaces when you're going. We had an absolutely delightful trip. We really didn't have a ton of crowds. I mean, and we started in Dublin, but we were in the countryside a lot. We got out and stayed in the small towns, in the cottages. We went out to we just had this incredible experience. And we went just a little later in the year. And so I think too, just thinking about that in terms of when you go, My daughter and son-in-law went to New Zealand last year in January, and it's like, oopsie, it's summer here. So also considering that they are very much vacationing down there and touristing down there, and that was fine, but it was just like in our heads, we're like, oh, January, this will be a good time to go. Won't be, except for it's the opposite season down there. So just like, thinking about those things in terms of cost and awareness. I really am going to let you guys ask you. There's so much to talk about here. I want to touch on one last thing, the medical piece. And Vashta, I'm going to start with you because of the medical, like understanding medicine. And this really, listen to Vashta's episode because this really set her on a whole trajectory because of what she learned about medical and what she experienced in her own body. But even just in general as traveling, what are some things you should be aware of medically, especially if you're going to be in a place for a month or 2 months, how you prepare for that and what there is to understand.
Well, always knowing where the closest hospital is.
Read her book for more information on that.
Or like English speaking places if there's any sort of language barrier, because that can be. I have experienced, like being in a very traumatic situation with my oldest daughter where she was having a seizure and none of us spoke a common language. And it was terrifying because we were in an ER and they're speaking Cambodian and French and I am, speaking English. And it was just it was traumatic at that time. So just knowing where these things are, though, it was important that we knew where the International Medical Clinic was, but also that the medical care is way better.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge takeaway. I dealt with infertility before we left the States, and when we lived in Lebanon, they ran all these tests that they never even talked to me about or considered stateside until, you've had many, many, many miscarriages later. They would maybe think about that. There it was like, oh, you've had 2 miscarriages. We're going to do this, this, and this. And they figured out our situation and then had a plan and carried me through my pregnancy in Beirut. And so that was great. And then I had our youngest daughter, Kate, in Bangkok. And just the level of care that I received there was so outstanding. I would highly recommend anybody that needs any sort of medical tourism, having babies, etc., check out Bangkok. It's fantastic. And it was, I could talk to my doctor when I needed to. After 4 days, I had a very straightforward delivery. And 4 days later, I had to ask to leave the hospital. I was like, the Seahawks are playing in the championship tomorrow. Can I please go to my apartment so I can watch the Super Bowl?
By the way, congratulations. My husband's also thrilled.
Yes, it was, go Seahawks. Anyway, but this was like a decade ago now. And so, it was just the care to the mom as a woman who I had our oldest in Seattle and I was in and out of the hospital. You have barely 24 hours to even acclimate to being a mom. And they're like, bye, see you. Yeah. And then Thailand, it was just very hands-on, great medical care. And so there's just this very different scenario than a lot of people think. That would be a myth, the good healthcare overseas is hard to find. I would say that's false. There's really good healthcare overseas. And we've had our fair share. I mean, there are things. My husband had to have an emergency appendectomy in Lagos. I wouldn't recommend that, but it worked out, and it was great. We had a doctor who had worked in the British system for 30 years, but I had I had to go inside of myself and be like, everything is fine. Just because I am really outside of my comfort zone here doesn't mean that this doctor hasn't performed 1,000 appendectomies.
Yeah.
Trust in what's here and not trying to control the situation and fly us out of the country. So, I think there's that. We have our own biases as well and our own fears. And so really having to come to head with that and realize, we actually had really good care there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Thank you for that. I knew you'd have a ton to say on that. She's got all kinds of
And I have
experiences on that.
I could talk for another hour on all of that
Good.
and how it shaped my whole career. But I won't.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in the book. It's in the book. And listen to the podcast episode. Between the book and the podcast episode, you'll get it all. And now you know how to find Vashti if you have follow-up questions. But she's a great resource for this. Sveti, how about you? Medically, what have you learned as you've traveled and navigated?
Well, I learned that I have PTSD about the cost of medical because of living in the US. So whenever I would go to a doctor, whenever I go to a doctor in any country, it's like, how much does it cost? Like, please tell me up front. And they're looking at me like, it's like, let's say 40, 50 euro if it's in Europe. And I'm just like, are you sure that's it? That's all? Are you sure? Is there any, like, am I going to like get any other fees afterwards? So I see a lot of my friends who had not grown up in the States look at me like, what is wrong with you? Why are you asking about cost like every second of this whole doctor's appointment? And I was like, you guys don't understand.
Oh yeah.
This is how much of a PTSD I'm carrying because of all, like, how extraordinary, huge the costs are in the States. And so, I mean, similarly, like, I've never been hit with a crazy bill. I had surgery on some ovarian cysts in South Africa. Super reasonable. I was in the hospital for a whole day or a whole evening, just one night. It was just, like, amazing surgery. Had this great guy. So, I never thought that I would have surgery in South Africa, but I did, and it was great. So exactly like Vashti said, it's just it's a myth. There is great healthcare medical systems all over the world. Of course, again, do your research. Don't go to like the public hospital down the road and just because it's the closest one. You should probably do private in certain countries. So that is definitely something to think about. But if you do your research, it would not be anywhere near how much it would cost in the States.
I can speak really quickly. Could I interject?
Cost?
So having our oldest in Seattle, one night in the hospital, the bill was $33,000, somewhere around that amount. And that's like a regular vaginal birth, no C-section. Regular, upfront vaginal birth in Bangkok, 4 days in the hospital, it was $1,300.
Oh my God.
Wow. So you can do the percentages on that. Holy cow. That's incredible. Wow. Thank you for that. Well, Tina, and you talk about you started going, and this is not uncommon, especially if you live in states that border on Mexico. Tons of people travel into Mexico for their medical care. That's been going on for years. My grandmother got her prescriptions from Canada because of her prescription. She lived in North Idaho, and her prescriptions were so much less expensive to get them out of Canada. So this is something we've kind of been aware of that I don't think we talk about a lot. So this literally medical cost was one of the first things that you talk about.
Absolutely. It's why I started coming down to Mexico, because it's like I have great skin and hair, but bad eyes and teeth. So, it was just like, a crown in the US is like $1,200, $1,500. In Mexico, it's about $300 or $400, depending on where you go.
Wow.
So it makes a huge difference. I mean, obviously everything has gone up everywhere, but medical tourism is a thing. And my friends thought I was crazy to come down to Mexico to get dental work done. I'm like, well, I can afford it down here. And they had US certified dentists here. So you pay up front and then you can get reimbursed on your dental insurance.
Oh, wow.
So some people don't realize that depending on, in Cancun, medical tourism is a big thing. So depending on where you're at, do your research and you can include like a little vacation and with your medical things. Also check with your CPA to see what is tax deductible, because when I was in Turkey, I actually had Invisalign done and I had my eyes done. So I actually did a clear lens extraction, which is having cataract surgery without having cataracts.
Oh, wow.
I was extremely farsighted, and when I moved to Pueblo the first time, I broke my contact the first day because I had gas burns. I had to go back to the States, took 5 different tries with a specialist to get the contact correct. And I was like, what can I do? I love to travel. Like, I don't want to be in Vietnam or in a jungle somewhere and like have my contacts like, fall out or break or something. So he recommended the surgery. He said I was a really good candidate for it. It was a little scary. I will say that I had it done in Istanbul. The doctor was amazing. She's like, we do cataract surgeries all the time. When you're a Turkish citizen, you can actually get it done for free through the government when it's medically necessary. Wow. So that is covered by their system. So she's like, yeah, I've done like, I don't know, 40,000 or something like that. She'd been doing it for 20 years. Amazing doctor. And she was very careful because you do have to check that also because not all medical tourism is the same.
Sure.
And some people just want to rush you through it. You're just a number, but she was absolutely amazing. So it does pay to do some research. I also found out in Istanbul, they have a lot of medical schools, but not all of them work with live people or with cadavers. So you might be the first person they're working on. So you need to like double check those things.
Yeah.
But highly recommend it. The medical services in other countries is so good. Like even here in Mexico, a lot of places will have like a doctor attached to a pharmacy. Obviously, they're trying to sell you things.
Sure.
But it's like 50 or 70 pesos, which is like about $3.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So if you get like the stomach bug, which is very common here in Mexico, you go there, you pay them. I've been to several for different reasons. They've been amazing. But yeah, the private can definitely be better than the public, depending on what your issue is. So doing your research is really important. But other countries have such great medical care. It's a great way to start traveling. It's a great way to kind of write it off on your taxes if you want to, depending on what you're doing. But yeah, I feel totally safe getting medical work done in other countries, way more than the States.
Wow. Okay. I'm so glad I asked that question. We are right at an hour here. So but I want to give you guys time to ask each other questions. Okay. So I'll start with Sveti. Any questions for our other panelists?
Yeah. So, ladies, okay. I don't know if you saw, but back in the fall, they said that Sweden, the doctors in Sweden, kind of segue from our Medica, have prescribed travel now as like a remedy or a sort of therapy.
Oh, nice.
And it's kind of like, I can send you guys the link or whatnot, but it was really interesting for me because that's something that I naturally came to realize how much of a mental therapy that travel has become, and the transformation and the mental resilience that I've built as a solo traveler now. And so there's a part of like, so my question to you guys is, when people ask you, about travel, do you find it that they're always saying, oh, well, travel is just vacationing. Like, how can you live this way? Like to travel so much is just that you're just like on an extended vacation. Have you guys gotten that question?
Yeah. I mean, people don't understand it, right? So I think that there's this sort of fear, a little judgment around things that people don't understand. Yeah. And they'll just be like, how can you do that? Or they, like you both, work and live overseas, right? But like they can't detach those two things from each other, right? Like if you're abroad, you must just be vacationing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. And now it's so interesting because there's evidence showing that travel is not just meant for like an escapism sort of mode. Travel is transformative from a deeply like a self-connection sort of, just so many benefits. And now when I saw that article too, it's like, oh, the Swedish doctors are prescribing travel.
I mean, leave it to the Northern European countries to figure this out.
Right? Not really surprised. Exactly. They all have the best quality of life and the best health care and the best maternal. I mean, my gosh, you look every year. I'm like, And it's funny, my father-in-law's Norwegian, and I'm like, why didn't you ever take us back there? I don't know.
I mean, they have their own issues.
They do.
obviously.
They do. You know, I would say too on that, yes, and also, you know, there probably isn't. I think there's other levels of diversity, other places that you don't see in those countries. So there's pluses and minuses to all of those things, definitely. Yeah.
It was so great. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine, honey. I don't think I've ever been on a vacation. You know, everyone says, "Oh, you're going on another vacation." I'm like, no, I just travel. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the same thing. I mean, yeah, there are times I am sitting by a pool and, you know, on the beach and things like that, but it's just your life. You know, it's your everyday life.
Yeah.
And the great thing about traveling that people don't realize is I am not afraid of getting Alzheimer's, you know, because you're in different cities, different places, foreign towns, you're having to, you know, adapt and kind of like find your way around. So it's like your brain is working in different ways. Like, so I think it actually adds to your health and your well-being to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually data on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're challenging ourselves. We're, you know, adapting to all of the different surroundings that we're seeing, and I know from my perspective that I don't have time to watch TV.
Yeah.
which is incredible for my mental health because now I'm like not sort of going into default mode of not really thinking about anything. Like you're watching TV, it's not. It's just like it's background noise. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just background noise. It's an escape. And so I found out that the last 3 years, because I'm challenging my capacity to sort of navigate all of these different travel challenges at the same time, just taking in all of the social environments that are and meeting all these new people. And I feel like I got smarter. I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It happened.
Undoubtedly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you for confirming what I also try to tell others when they say, you know, oh, you're just vacationing full time. Oh, you're retired. And I was like,
You're retired.
I'm not retired. No, this is a different life. It's a way of living.
It's empowering, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's like very difficult. We've been very ingrained for generations to go into an office space and even with remote work, but still like log onto your computer and do this, what we consider normal life, right? And then you work 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 or whatever 80-hour work week you're putting out. And then you go home and you repeat this process on a hamster wheel. And that is your whole life, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reality for a lot of people. And then people are just afraid. A lot of people, I think, live in fear of stepping outside of what they see as their comfort zone. And travel is all about stepping outside of comfort zone.
1,000%.
Exactly.
1,000%.
People said I was crazy for moving to Mexico, and it has been like the best decision I've ever done.
Yeah.
You know, and then being able to travel to other countries, absolutely. So it's like, no, people need to, well, it would be great if more people travel the world, because then you realize how similar we all are, and there would be less conflict in the world.
Absolutely.
Because when you know your neighbor, you're less likely to want to bomb them.
Yes.
Or to steal their president, you know.
Yes.
Things like that. Just
Yes. So boy, that's its own special show. Talk about therapy. We all need therapy from all of that. Golly Moses. Yeah. And Vashti is keenly aware with her husband being a diplomat. God help him. I mean, holy cow. I mean, right in the throes of that. But Spetty, any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Vashti, how about you? Any questions for our other panelists?
Yeah, sure. Because I am sort of like in these situations because of my husband's job, and I love that. But you guys, I chose it too, but you guys chose it in a different way. And when you are like in a new place, like Sveti, you're going all the time to different places, and Tina, you've lived in multiple places too. How do you find meeting people and like creating like relationships? Because I land and I have like other people. It's still, you have to go out and like put in the effort, which is a whole other episode of putting in the effort of meeting people and meaningful relationships. But like, do you look for other expats that are Americans? Do you look outside of that? Do you try to avoid other Americans? I'm just very curious on like who you gravitate to.
Sveti, you go first, and then we'll go to
first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing question. I love it because the connections that I've made the last 3 years have been part of my transformation of coming back to myself and becoming a much more whole person. So those connections of when I started to travel, I started going to wine tastings. So the first like
That's
4 months, it was a bunch of, so I went to Spain, wine tasting. I went to France, wine tasting. And so I ended up at one of the wine tastings. I made this amazing Australian woman that we're besties now. And we spent the whole wine tasting together. And so when you have these type of things, so it's making that effort to find, let's say, some sort of a tour. So I do walking tours. Every city I sign up for a walking tour and end up meeting the people that are on the tour with me. Like in Bali, you sign up to do all of the temple stuff.
The temples,
the temples. And so from a cultural perspective, I do meetups. I do. I sign up for like entrepreneurs getting together. So I look for those social settings and then meet interesting people from that way.
Okay.
In addition to that, I have when I started the travel, and I was so lonely before in San Diego, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna put myself out there. Like, I'm in a new city, I'm in a new country, I don't have anything to lose, and so what if I start conversations? And then and so I would sit in a cafe, and the person next to me, if they're not on their phone and if they look like they're open, I start a conversation, and they say, "Oh, hello, are you a local?" It's sort of getting these vibes, and it's been wild because I've started a conversation just in the middle of a square in Portugal with my Finnish friend, who I ended up becoming very close with when I went to Finland. So it was in the middle of just the city center, and it's sort of bonding with people just by making that first move has been really great. And that really, the opportunity to do that is because I'm alone. Like when you're traveling with other people and, with your husband or with your friends, you're not venturing to do that. You're not forcing yourself to make new connections. But when you are alone and you're just a little bit like, I feel like a conversation. Like it would be really nice to have a conversation right now. And then just starting it. And I would say like 95% of the time, people have been they continue it on, and they start to be more curious about me. And then you're just like, what do you mean you've been traveling for 3 years? What's going on? What? How? What? And then you get into it. So yeah, I'd say it's been super fulfilling.
That's cool.
Exactly.
Tina, how about you?
I'm a very friendly person, so you meet more genuine connections, I think, when you're just meeting people organically. Like you said, at a coffee shop, I met a friend of mine in a health food store. She was carrying a yoga mat. I love yoga. We had that conversation, so it was super easy. We've been friends for years now. But there's also like going to classes is really important. And some cities are just more geared towards expats and expat groups, like Medellin, Colombia is really happening. Oh my gosh.
Yes,
they have
it
amazing
is.
community groups. Like, it is so happening. So many entrepreneurs are there. It's a very young, vibrant city, and it attracts like this really great energy. So that can be really different. I tend to stay away from the Facebook expat groups unless I have a specific question, like, hey, does anybody know of an apartment or a room for rent or a visa question? Otherwise, it can be a little toxic sometimes. They're good for meetups, but otherwise it's kind of like, but just going to classes, like, I'm I just actually moved to Pueblo like a week ago. So I actually went to the rec center and I did a belly dancing class, met the most amazing women. They all speak Spanish, so, but super friendly. So yeah, but you can just meet people organically and meet them anywhere in the world, I think. And then you build those connections. Like I met a woman when I was in Croatia. We went to Hvar and she bought me this gorgeous black hat, which I still use. I get compliments on all the time. So you never know who you're going to meet or the connections you're going to have. And that's part of the fun of it. Sometimes it can be a little challenging, especially if you're an introvert. But I think with the meetup groups and all the things that you mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to meet people. So don't let that stop you.
Okay. That's so good. All right. So Tina, any questions for these ladies?
Yes. And let me see how I can phrase this. Okay. So I am a horrible traveler. I will just say that I'm super nervous. I didn't start I was never on a plane until I was 30. That was my first time. So I'm like a really super nervous traveler. So it's a two-part question. Any tips you have for traveling? Because I will literally be in security, being like tapping and breathing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, I'm not settled until I'm actually on the plane. Even when I'm at the gate, I'm like, oh my God, are they changing the gate? Like, what's going on? Like, and I check it like 10 times. I'll go up and ask them. I'm like, am I in the right place? And I've traveled a lot in the last 9 years. So I get like super nervous about traveling, and I'm directionally challenged, geographically challenged. I didn't realize Aruba was an island. So, like I am very challenged in some areas, I am very challenged. And I don't really speak any other language. My Spanish is getting better, but it's still pretty bad. The other thing is that everyone thinks that traveling is so glamorous. You see all the Instagram posts and all the TikTok stuff. And I'm seeing, four-star hotel for $2, and all this stuff that just is not real. I think traveling, it's your life. It's how you live your life. It's not going to be like, oh yes, I get a mansion in the swimming pool and a butler and I pay $10 a month for it. No, and so what are your experiences, with places you lived? And I also think, hostels are a great place to meet people. So that is a great way to have community and build and grow. And my dream, I launched the book, but my bigger dream is to create international co-living spaces for women in midlife that are sanctuaries so women feel safe traveling. So this all kind of goes together with me. Yes, I need to get backing for all that, but yeah. So ladies, I would love your advice on traveling and how you're living and things like that, because I think there's so many myths and misconceptions about how we live when we're living international.
Yeah. Vashti, go ahead and take this first, and then we'll go to Sveti.
Okay, sure. For like being nervous when you're getting on a plane, I always take magnesium. It helps take like a little bit with just relaxation, because it's very helpful for sleep and relaxation. Or the box remedies, BACHS remedy. Those the little pastilles are really helpful too, just to like kind of take that edge off. But I always travel with a magnesium and just or two and take that just to help with a little relaxation as well. As a diplomat, I get a lot of questions like, my life is the show The Diplomat, and it is not like the show.
That's so true.
You I don't. It's shocking.
Does not live in a giant mansion.
No, I live in a flat. Yeah, no, it's so there's this whole perception versus reality, right? And I think just as being like people that live overseas, we all face that sort of perception versus reality. For me, it's my life isn't black tie events and butlers and drivers and all of those things. I live my life like most people. I just do it overseas. Like we all have the same challenges in life.
Yeah.
We're just doing it in a different space. And so I try to, to let people know that, despite what Netflix wants people to believe.
Carrie Russell is not living the real diplomat life, doing a great acting job, but not living the real diplomat
so she really bugs me. I'm like, come on, girl. Come on. Also, like, get the language right. No.
Yes.
So anyway, there's that. But I think I went off.
That's good.
That was
All
fun.
right. Okay, Smitty, how about you?
Okay. So the first part about the nervous. So funny enough, I hope we'll see if my aunt is listening to this, but she's the perfect example because she is a nervous traveler, very anxious, and so I was experiencing this during the last 2 weeks, and I had the agenda packed. We went to 4 different cities, 2 different countries, Vietnam and South Korea. So like we averaged 15,000 steps a day.
Oh,
I
my
almost
honey. That's I think you did.
Traveling boot
was
camp.
very tired. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I was like, you
honey.
signed up for this. Like I'm a professional. And so she was very nervous about certain things and anxiety. So what I communicated to her. I said, listen, besides some medication, that's good, but we've done all the planning. We have plan A, we've done plan B, we have plan C if needed, like if this doesn't work out, so it's about giving yourself that confidence that if something goes wrong with plan A, we have plan B. So it's to soothe yourself and basically have compassion that you've got this, the confidence, like, and by knowing that, you have those backup plans ready, you've done your research, you've done all that you can for this trip, and you've done your best, and you kind of feel that you're ready and that you're here, and so you kind of keep reminding yourself. It really helped her, understand that I've done everything, and now I sit back and reap the benefits of all my research, of all my experience, and just enjoy. Now it's time to enjoy.
Yeah.
And so
I
I
love
think
that.
that
I plan
narrative.
nothing. I plan nothing. I
Okay.
fly by the seat of my pants. I was in Italy for a month and a half, and I just winged it all. So I love the fact that you plan everything. I love that.
Yeah.
And you have
Yeah.
plans. I love that.
It's great, but it's also giving me that sense of confidence that if if anxiety starts to creep up, then I say, like I've done the research as best as I can, and now I'm gonna leave it to what happens. But it's because I've done that legwork beforehand. I'm tricking my brain to be like, I'm ready. I'm good.
Okay.
Like you don't need to be spiraling in your head, because you're ready. You're ready for any challenge. And you feel it and you know it. And then from a perspective of, yes, the lifestyle of the solo traveler, I feel like it's like a TV show coming
rich
out.
and famous.
I know, it sounds like another show we need to do.
I mean, there's like we talked about, I've planted, I've lived, I've been in hostels. It's not the glamorous life that I get lucky sometimes that I find a like great deal with like a view like this and in Kuala in Malaysia. But just prior to this, I was in a hostel in South Korea. So yeah. I also live out of a suitcase. Which is very interesting because I have a friend in Detroit, actually. So I went to visit, and she's like, so where do you put your shoes? You have one suitcase, just one.
Yeah.
I was like, I have 3 pairs of shoes. And she's like, does that include flip-flops? What do you mean 3 pairs of shoes?
Yeah.
So it's a different life. So I can't be switching the outfits every day, so I make do with a lot of different combinations and
capsule wardrobes.
Yes.
Yes.
Capsule.
And when you're traveling,
exactly.
People don't care. People don't care what you're wearing, because you're going to be in a different city, in a different city, in a different city, in a different town. Like, people really don't care what you're wearing. Like, typically you have your clothes and you do the smell test.
Yeah.
And so it's good to go.
To kind of add on to that, I met. I was in a cafe in South Korea, and I started a conversation with two men, very young. They turned out to be models, like fashion models. They were really, really interesting and cool. And I was telling them about how I live, and because they're coming from the fashion industry, and they're a little bougie, and so one of them one of them is just like, well, I don't know if I want to travel if I don't stay in like 4-star hotels. And I was like, that is okay. So that, he said this statement, and then I started to think back. It is like, but think about how many experiences you're gonna miss out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
he's staying in his comfort zone.
Exactly.
Outside of what's actually happening there.
Yeah.
And some people think that's the way
cultural
that they want to travel. Oh, I want to go to Europe, but I want to go and see all these really nice places. And I literally had a friend tell me, oh, you can't afford to go to Europe. Like, we were just there and it's so expensive. This was years ago. And she's like, me and my husband were just there and you just can't afford it. And we had the same job. Her and I had the same job. And I was like, watch me.
Yeah. Well, also, if you're staying at a curio every night, that's probably true. If you're, but if you're, looking for different options and you're open to different things, I say all the time, curiosity and comfort cannot coexist together. I think that's something I have learned over the last 4 years. And I had a fascinating conversation at dinner last night with a woman that my husband and I had dinner with. And she's like, she's like, say more about that. I'm like, because you stay comfortable. You're just in your zone. Nothing really challenges you with the people, everything's familiar. You just kind of flow. Curiosity challenges you. It allows you to learn new things. It stretches your imagination. It stretches what's possible. You change your mind about things because you learn the way you were thinking wasn't actually accurate. I mean, it's just open. If we could embrace that piece of it. I want to add a little bit story. I think Sveti and Vashai both heard this story, but we tend to, when we travel, we tend to kind of plan ahead, but we also stay loose. And I say stay loose, like for something might shift. So we were in Florence getting ready to go to Genoa. We got on the wrong train. It was a language barrier thing. We just read it wrong. We got on the wrong train. We figured out about 2 stops in, we were on the wrong train. So we got off that train, went back. By the time we got to the original stop, our train had already left. So we were like, okay, we got to find a new train to Genoa. And at first we were kind of like a little bit at each other, and also just kind of took a breath, like we had nothing on the calendar today other than getting to Genoa. So let's just settle, take a breath. This was nobody's fault. It just happens sometimes when there's a lane, when you misread things. And so we ended up getting on a different train that was going to Genoa, but a different route. It had a stop in Pisa, but then it was going up the coast, where our other train was just cutting across the countryside and popping out in Genoa. And that was the first time you were on the coast. So we get in this train, not knowing what we're getting, really, other than, okay, we had an 1.5-hour stop in Pisa. We hustle over to the Tower of Pisa, which wasn't on our list of touristy things to see. Get back on the train, and about just a 5 to 10 minutes into the trip, we go into this tunnel. We come out of this tunnel and we are on a cliff above the Mediterranean. And I had not seen the Mediterranean yet. And it was on one of my dream things to see. We pop out of this tunnel and it was a bluebird sunny day. I leapt out of my train seat and and my husband was like, everybody knows who the crazy American tourist is now that's never seen the Mediterranean before. But the people around us actually got a lot of joy out of my reaction. And a lady across from me, she's like, I loved seeing you respond like that because I'm used to this. I take this train route all the time. So to kind of experience it through your eyes, and I was, for the rest of the trip, we ended up going through the Cinque Terre, which is an under-talked about area of Italy. Yes. Everybody talks about Naples and all those, and that Amalfi Coast, all beautiful. Don't sleep on Cinque Terre. Monte Rosso, it's this area south of Genoa. Oh my, I was ready to get off at Monte Rosso and just stay. Just tell the kids I'm right here. I'm not going home. I see a pretty little spot on the cliff over there. Bye. I'm good. You can come with me, husband, if you want, but this is where I'm going to go live my life. It captured me. And all because we made a mistake. Yep. We weren't supposed to have that experience. That experience is one of the highlights, not only of that trip, of my life. That 2 to 3 hours on that train riding the coast of the Mediterranean on this. It was the most perfect day. I get happy talking about it. I can still see it in my head. So also the planning piece, it takes a lot. Even when we went to Ireland, I planned ahead of time. We had family that had been there because my mother-in-law is Irish, but we also left room. Like we didn't, we left room, and so it does give you that sense of having a plan and knowing what we're doing, and also leaving room for the unexpected to take that unexpected turn.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. And I know that view you're talking about, and I love Chicotata. I was in Monte Rosa for a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, you say it better than me. I don't say it as well.
I still don't say it right, but yes. Love it. It's amazing. The 5 villages, absolutely incredible.
Oh my God. So, you can travel on those trails to the different villages a lot. I mean, it is like, I could just sit there and just be happy. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
And I also want to give you credit, Tina. You don't let that fear or anxiousness stop you. No. You don't let it stop you. So many people would do that one time and like, nope, not doing that again. You're like, no, I understand this. And also I know what's on the other side of this. So this is not going to stop me from having this experience.
Exactly. It's so worth it. It's worth it to travel. Like I cannot wait until we have teleportation. Like that'll be amazing.
Yeah.
But until then, I just try to work with it as much as possible. But no, I really appreciate it. I appreciate everyone's insights and the generosity of everyone's time for being here today. It's been absolutely wonderful to chat with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours, clearly. But as we wrap this up, I want each of you to A, share one last thought for our listeners, and B, where people can find you and follow you. And that will also be on our show notes here. But that real quick. So Tina, let's start with you.
Okay. So I would tell everyone, just fucking do it. Like, just fucking do it. Stop the excuses. You don't have to do it perfectly. It's not going to end up perfectly. Just do it and realize that you're never going to remember everything for the trip. It's never going to be perfect. You're going to forget things. You can always buy things when you get there, whatever you need. I've literally lost socks as soon as I arrive in the airport, or, you get to the floor, you're going, you're like, oh, gee, I forgot this. It's fine. You can spend the $10 and buy whatever it is you need. That's not a problem, but just fucking do it. Just take the plunge, do it, have the experience, and take baby steps if you need to. I started by hosting couch surfing. I went and stayed in Fort Worth from Dallas, Texas for a weekend and found out I wanted to be around people. I didn't want to do it all by myself. And, just enjoy it. Life is short. You are going to regret not doing it more than doing it and having like a bad trip or having things not go perfectly. You will regret that more. So my book is 50 Fabulous and Fuckable, the midlife guide to reinvention, confidence, and travel. You can find it on Amazon, and then you can also find me at tinabcoleman.com and on TikTok, Transform Be Courageous.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Vashti, how about you?
Similar to Tina, just step outside your comfort zone. I think, especially speaking to those ladies that are, 50 plus, if, I know people who have not traveled because their spouse didn't want to travel. Just go on a trip. You don't have to take them with you. It might be more fun, in fact, if you don't, because if they're not willing to participants, so it's stepping outside of that, doing the things that you've always wanted to do. I think most people have wanted to travel, and there's a lot of reasons why they haven't. And just go do it. Yeah, exactly. Go fucking do it.
Yes.
You can find me on VashtiConnahaley.com. Same on TikTok, same on Instagram and Threads.
And where can we get your book?
Either Barnes & Noble or Amazon.
Okay. And tell them the name of it again.
Oh, Passports and Parasites.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's worth the read. And you're just going to read it like, wow, that must have been an adventure. Although some of you might have been like, oh, me too. I had that happen. All right. Betty, how about you?
Okay. So last takeaway would be definitely travel is transformational. So you will become the part of yourself when you take on that first trip. And so if you're waiting for something, if you are waiting for the fear to go away, to stop being scared, it's not going to go away. Just take it with you And like the lady said, just start doing it, and then you will experience a transformation. You can get your money back if I'm wrong on this one.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely transformational. You can find me at svetiru.com. I'm on Instagram, so there's a lot of podcasts there too that can help get you started. I'm also on YouTube, Svetiru, LinkedIn, Svetiru. It's a bit harder spelling, but Melissa, you're gonna probably have it in the show notes.
I will have it in the show notes.
Yeah, so thank you so much. This is incredible conversation. You ladies are just filling me up with so much more with all of your stories. I love that we're building a sort of community just by talking about travel.
Yeah, I knew so important to have you all together. And Sveti can help you. Like, she literally helps women travel solo. So reach out to her if you're wanting to do this, or a group of you is wanting to do this. She's got all the tips, all the resources. She helps women do this. So
a little too much of a planner. But got a Google spreadsheet ready.
But she'll get you started and meet you where you are. And you talk about the simple thing of taking yourself out to eat, because there's such a stigma about women going out to eat by themselves. So she's like, start by taking yourself on a date. Let's get you comfortable there if you've not done a lot of travel before. So some really great tips from her. My tip is a little more just practical. Make sure you know what adapters you need. My husband and I got to Rome and we didn't have the right adapter. And our phones, we'd been traveling for hours. Our phones were like at 6% and 2%. And we were getting very nervous because we had to navigate our way, because we stayed in a neighborhood the first time. We didn't want to be in downtown Rome. We stayed in this little boutique kind of hotel, but in a neighborhood. It ended up being fabulous. One of the best meals of our life at a local trattoria amongst a bunch of houses. It looked like a little shack. It was incredible. The guy at the front desk very kindly loaned us a charger. And the next morning we got into Rome, and like Tina said, you can buy things there. We went and grabbed our adapter and we sat at a coffee place and charged for half an hour before we started our day in Rome. So make sure, and they're different. Like, don't assume all adapters in Europe are the same. Yeah. Our adapter in Ireland is completely different than our adapter in mainland Europe. So just do the research so you have those little things that can throw you. If you're using your phone for navigational purposes, make sure you have the right adapter.
And have 6 months in your passport.
Yes, that too. Because the other thing we have found is if you're too close to that 3-month mark, then you can get into trouble travel-wise. So make sure your passport's up to date. Just do those little things in advance to help you just ease whatever you can ease. Betty, you got one more thing on that, it looks like?
Oh, yeah. Visa, for example, for Vietnam.
Yes. Yeah. Did you do it online? You can do it online.
Oh no, I forgot to get one last year.
Yeah.
Because we're so spoiled with, like, I went to Thailand, I went to Bali.
With the visa waivers, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was trying to get on the flight from Thailand to Vietnam, and they're like, "Where's your visa for Vietnam?" And I'm like, "Come again? What?
Oopsie!
What visa?
Need a visa for Vietnam?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, we have so many visa waiver countries to always check that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can do a SIM card or an eSIM card these days, because my first trip, I didn't know that you could do that. I literally went the entire time I was in Spain and Italy with no phone.
Wow.
And I had phone envy. I was like, I hear the ringing of the phone. Yeah, I had no idea. And this was back in 2017. I had no idea you could do SIM cards.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Well, power to you for traveling without a phone.
Absolutely. I can't imagine us traveling. Yeah, I mean, without our phones. Because we have on Verizon, we can go and be like, hey, we're traveling for X amount and purchase that. And we always do that on a phone. But the eSIM card also, too. I've got one of those now. So hopefully, as we wrap this up today, this has left you feeling empowered and with a ton of information. I haven't done the international travel these ladies have done. I've done some but I've lived all over the country. We've moved 12 times in our 32 and a half years of being married. Our kids were born in 3 different states. They graduated from different high schools. They went to different colleges. They all live in different parts of the country now. They all travel a lot. It's such a gift that I can't imagine not having. It has impacted the way I see the world. It has impacted the way I vote and the way I see my vote working, not just on behalf of me and my family, but how it impacts other people. It helps. It's like what Tina said earlier, when you meet these people and you see them as humans, you understand that they are people too. It changes the way you think about conflict and whether you want to have a conflict with them and what is actually happening in these spaces, and that we are all human. And there's just so much healing power and learning power that happens from travel. So we could spend another 1.5 to 5 hours talking about this because on this conversation, but we won't do that. But I've got ideas for other panels coming out of this moving forward. So but I just want to thank you all for listening today. If you've missed all of this, it's going to be on our YouTube channel at Embracing Layers, where you can catch the whole thing. The resources from these fabulous women will be in there, and a couple other things they mentioned I'm going to stick in there too. Thanks for being with us here on Together We Feel as we talk about empowerment through travel. Take good care and have a great week.